How's it going? Adam Drake here, and today I'm going to talk about some gearing options for your Mugen Seiki nitro and electric buggies. Some of this can apply to truck, but when we get a little bit deeper into it, as far as ring and pinion gearing for our truck, there's only one option. But we are going to start with gearing options in terms of spur gears. So for the HTD diffs that we use in all the MBX8 and 8R line of vehicles, buggy, truck, nitro, and electric, we have a range of spur gears that go from 44 tooth all the way up to 48 in one tooth increments. So 44, 45, 46, 47, and 48. Now, in most conditions, for nitro buggy, we're going to run a 46 spur gear with a 13 tooth clutch bell. That's just pretty common for pretty much all conditions in the US. But if you want a little bit more low end power or acceleration, you could go to a 47 or a 48 tooth. And the nice thing with having so many spur gear options is that you can kind of fine tune your gearing. So if you're to change your clutch bell, for example, to go from a 13 to a 14, it's a really big change. Even though it's only one tooth, it's equal to pretty much 3 teeth on the spur gear. So if you want to just kind of fine tune that range, if there's a jump right out of a corner and you need just a little bit more bottom end and you don't want to sacrifice a lot of top end, you could just go up 1 or possibly 2 teeth, which would be a smaller change than adjusting your clutch bell. So in e-buggy, because there's so much acceleration, you have so much power, I normally run a 44 or sometimes a 45 tooth spur gear. The smaller spur gear will just give a little bit smoother acceleration, a little bit more top end. And if you go to an event like PMB where it just has a really, really long straightaway, but you don't want to give up too much bottom end, instead of changing to a 14 tooth clutch bell, you could go from the standard 46 spur to a 45 or 44. So again, just a number of different tuning options. These can be used again for electric buggy, nitro buggy, electric truck, or nitro truck, as long as you're using the HTD diffs. So even if you have some of the older models, but it has the HTD diffs, then you can use all of these spur gears. So the next thing that I would like to talk about is the ring and pinion options that we have for buggy. So originally, the MBX8 came with 44-13 ring and pinion and then a 47 tooth spur gear. The MBX8R Eco still comes with the 44 ring gear and 13 pinion. The Nitro car, to give a little bit more acceleration, make it just feel a little bit kind of lighter under acceleration, comes with a 42 tooth ring gear and a 12 tooth pinion gear. With that, we then use a 46 spur. So you end up having very similar final drive ratios if you run 44-13 ring and pinion with 47 spur, 13 clutch bell, as you would when running 42-12 ring and pinion with 46-13. Again, that internal ratio for the ring and pinion can just change how the car accelerates. So 1242, more low end power. 4413 is going to be a little bit smoother delivery of power. So it's just really nice tuning option. And you can also mix the two. So I'm sure you've heard people sometimes talk to or explain running underdrive or overdrive. So if you are running a different gear ratio in the gearbox, ring and pinion, front to rear, you can change how the car accelerates, how much grip it has, and change a lot with the tuning of the car. So something that is pretty popular for drivers in low bite, bumpy conditions would be to use the 4413, which is our standard MBX8R Eco gearing in the front gearbox, and the standard nitro gearing, which is 4212 in the back. So essentially, the rear is underdriven compared to the front, or the front is overdriven compared to the rear. So it can be a little bit confusing, but normally in the bumpy low grip conditions, if you're looking for more grip, you would use underdrive in just the rear and the overdrive in the front. What that's going to do is it's going to make the speed, so that the center diff is spinning at a constant speed. When that gear ratio is different front to rear, front tires are going to be spinning at a different rate than the rear. So when doing the 1242 in the back and 4413 in the front, it's going to allow you, when you pick the throttle up, the car to just kind of square up and almost want to go a bit more straight, so not really continue to arc the corner as much. For me personally, I like having the same gearing front to rear. I feel like, yes, it does maybe free up the car a little bit, but it holds a much nicer arc. You can kind of control, if you need to, like you can control basically breaking the rear end loose with the throttle, where when you have underdrive in the rear, standard in the front, when you pick up the throttle, it just wants to bite into the track and have a lot of grip. So it's something that I see a lot of drivers, like 40 plus drivers, for example, or guys that are just heavy on the throttle, really, really liking the comfort of 1242 in the back, 4413 in the front. And then some of the more experienced drivers that want to almost use the throttle to break the car loose, give it its maximum potential of speed. They like the feeling more of the standard 1242 front and rear, just because it allows you to accelerate really hard, kind of light the tires up. But really, really nice to have all these options from Mugen. As far as truck goes, with the ring and pinion, we only have a 1046 ring and pinion. With truck, you have longer wheelbase, just wider stance, bigger tires, more contact patch for the tires. So it's not as critical to kind of have the different gear ratio settings, or to try to get a little bit more traction out of the truck. But I have heard of some guys with the electric truck using the 1242 front and rear, or even the 1242 rear, 4413 front, and then you just have to adjust the spur gear and pinion. So you would have to go up on the spur gear, maybe run like a 48 spur gear, and then go down on the pinion to get the right final drive ratio for the larger tires. I've never done that myself. I always just run the 1046 in truck. But if you were to do that, you would only want to do that in electric truck, because in nitro truck, you can't change the clutch bell or spur gear enough to get the ratio correct. It would be way over geared for nitro. So again, just a bunch of options from Mugen Seiki Racing. These are all available on mugenracing.com. And hopefully you enjoyed this video. And if you did, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe.